Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. Today, we are starting The Bands of Mourning, the third novel in the second era of Mistborn. And we read the prologue and chapters 1 and 2, wherein we get a flashback where we discover the dreadful secret that happened during Wax's time in the village and the reason he got kicked out. Then there's a raid. And there's a wedding, but then there's not a wedding, and it turns out that it was Wayne's fault. So I am Data, and with me is...
Jamie.
Joe.
And I'm his good friend Jesus.
That's good.
Save us, Jesus. I help those who help themselves.
Save me, Jeebus. Hang on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
Revolution holds us bound. Come on down to London town. Break your back for class and crown. Come on down to London town. Steam train running on a restless rail. Speeding right into the rising gale. Shovel harder 'cause we're on your tail. London's bloody dry.
So yeah, starting a new book, starting the last currently existing book in this series. What did you guys think of the first 3 chapters?
It's a bit of fun. It was always nice to start a new book, and I wasn't sure what we were going to get out of the prologue given what we learnt about Lessie and Lessie's fate last time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of glad that we've left that and got a bit of an insight to Wax growing up in the village. That was a bit of fun. Also, you could see that he's pretty keen on law enforcement. So what a crazy thing to stumble into when you're just trying to find your way as in the terrace community. I sort of liked, like how useful having that bullet on him was, and having the bullet casing, and how often he's like, oh, I'll throw a bullet casing on the ground and off I go. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, I get why he does that now because it was so useful at the time. And a nice little throwback to, obviously bringing his sister back into it and what she was like, a bit of their relationship. And Adashwi as well, nice nod in the past to her. So that was all pretty cool. And I'm glad we got some Steris straight away. And also, I'm really mad at Wayne. Like, don't, and also a little bit mad at Marasai. Like, you knew he was going to do something, or you just pieced it together that he was going to do something, because that's not okay. Wax has made his choice. Respect his choice, Wayne.
I agree. It's not okay. Like, I feel like even the book tries to play it off as like, Wayne's like, Wax will know, but he's not going to say anything. He really wanted me to do it. And maybe on some level, like after seeing him at the wedding, he kind of did need somebody to do it. But it's not cool.
No, that's it. Like, yeah, I mean, it could have played out pretty badly, and maybe he would have gone, look, I actually can't do this, and that would have been way worse, I think, for him and Steris, especially Steris, because she gave him an out, was like, you don't have to do it. I'm not going to hold it against you. It's okay. And then you go, no, I'm fine, to get up the front and go, oh, actually, no, I'm not fine. That's way more embarrassing. But I like that their relationship is still there, and I'm hoping that they've got the other date set in 2 months' time. So what I'm hoping is by the end of this book that they do actually get married. Marasai needs to have moved on. We're so past that storyline now. I would be super cranky if we came back to that. Steris deserves better.
Yeah, Marasai does seem like she's, moved on. I think it's
Wayne that doesn't seem to be moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But all in all, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good introduction. We really don't have much idea of what's going on yet, obviously, but it's a bit of fun, and I think it's not going to take long to get into anything in particular, because we've obviously got our new Kandra friend or foe, depending on which character you're seeing this from.
Right.
Also pretty cool to give Marasai a bit of a chance to be headlining one of these things, which will be cool, and watching Wax's journey from here as well. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, she needs a chance to shine in the lead. I agree. It'll be a good thing to see.
Yeah, the beginning of this book I really liked. I think I even texted Data, which is not super normal for me to do before we actually do a show saying, oh, hey, I really like the beginning of this book. The flashback I thought was cool. It gives a lot of insight into Wax. It's a cool story. I don't know. Maybe we had heard his terrace name back in the last book. I don't remember, but I like his terrace name. I think that's a cool name. And I really enjoyed that part. The stuff with them, I actually like the end of the prologue a lot too, where it kind of fast forwards to Wax and Wayne fighting Miggs and his crew. I thought that was cool. And then we get the wedding day and the disaster. I agree, that's not cool for Wayne to do that. I was kind of shocked that he would have done that, and also shocked, along with what Jamie said, that Marisai would kind of like scold him but kind of shrug it off. Like, and maybe it's just she's so familiar with Wayne at this point, but it's still not cool. Yeah, I agree. Steris, kind of deserves to have some kind of happiness. It's not really fair for Wayne to make decisions like that for Wax. And so that was kind of sad. I hope that, their later plans aren't sabotaged as well. And new Khandra on the scene, or maybe an old Khandra we don't know about in a different body. I don't know, but I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, we got a new Khandra who knows, like you said, what sort of what he's going to end up being like, he or she. I mean, it's a male body now, but who knows?
Yeah, I feel like so far, at least, it's except for Bleeder, who was specifically choosing to have different faces on to mess with Wax. I feel like so far the norm that we have seen is that if it's a male Khandra, they're in a male body. If it's female Khandra, they're in a female body. At least
if they're just
like
picking their own body, then yeah, it does seem kind of that way. I agree.
Yeah. Also, I don't know how they determine gender with like themselves. I guess they choose it at some point.
I don't know. We've been told that they do have genders, but not how, if it's biological or if it's a choice or what exactly it is.
My guess is like their essence must just like move them towards one thing or another, because based on how we know they're created, it doesn't seem likely that they could be a specific gender when they're born as mist wraiths, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, who knows?
So I'm pretty sure in the last book, Milan made some comment about humans and their sexual dimorphism or something.
Yeah, she said that like that they're like sexist, and that Vendel told her it's because of their sexual dimorphism, because men are bigger than women generally or whatever.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, as far as these chapters go, these are pretty good. Like, I really like the prologue. Really cool to see the village, see what life is sort of like in the village, because we haven't really had that before. And really interesting interactions. Like Jamie said, we saw the Khandra that Bleeder stole the steel running from. Not the Khandra, the terrace woman that Bleeder stole. So that was a nice little nod. Good to see his sister, which makes me think, all right, the sister's probably going to be more of a presence in this book, probably. The stuff with the wedding, I was like, this is fine. Like, it's character development for Wax, and again, nice to see Steris, who again MVP, because it's like she doesn't have to give the out, but she genuinely does try to look out for other people's well-being. And like, I'm gonna add to the other guys, like, what the hell is Wayne doing? He's rapidly turning, like, in the first book he was just kind of the odd sidekick who was kind of funny, but in like the last book and already the start of this book, he's just kind of one of those, I know better, so I'm gonna fuck with everyone until I get what I want, and he doesn't actually consider what anyone else wants. He's like, oh, I know what they want, so I'm gonna make that happen. It's like, okay, you're also going about it in the most destructive manner possible. I mean, no one got hurt and nothing was permanently damaged, but still, like, flooding a building, like, something could have very easily gone wrong there. And he just doesn't care, because as long as he gets what he wants, he doesn't give a shit what he does to anyone else. And, like, frankly, that rubs me the wrong way. So, And then Marisai goes to call him to task, and he just sort of verbally dances around it until she winds up just, like, letting him off the hook for it. And I'm like, no, call him to task for this, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. I agree.
So, that Wayne really rubbed me the wrong way here. And, like, not a good starting point for the book. So we'll see how that goes. Like, I'm on board with Wax and Steris, mostly with Marisai. I agree. It's nice that she'll get a chance to take the lead. I look forward to seeing more of that. But Wayne, you're going to have to work for it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Okay, I guess let's get into these chapters. I'm going to start with the maps because we got 2 maps here, and we'll to touch briefly. The second map is the great city of New Saran, and it's a map of the city, although it's kind of ripped over on the left side. So presumably, just from that, you can be like, oh, so I guess that city may be important at some point, right?
Yeah,
we live in Ellendale.
I was thinking the same thing when I pulled up the map and it had the second one, and I was like, oh, I guess we're going to New Saran at some.
So I bring that up just to point out back on the first map that this is basically the same map that we've seen twice now. There's usually it's got some handwritten annotations. There's only one in this case, and it's like a little X in the bottom right with presumably the name of a city. It says Dulcing, which is very close to New Saran. So that may give an idea of the geography that we're going to be dealing with to some extent. It seemed interesting to me that if Naz is once again annotating this map, he's just like, no, there's only one note I want to make this time.
Okay. I like the look of New Saran because it looks like it's sort of cut into the steps of a mountain or something.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm looking at this right, there's like cable cars going up and down it, which is this could be like this is a very different kind of city to what we've not seen before.
Yeah, there's definitely something. It looks. My first thought on seeing it was like, are there ski lifts or what is going on here? But yeah, there's some sort of something that goes up and down.
Yeah, it could be just like a cargo lift system getting goods from the river back up to the top and back down again. But
there's also a lot of waterfalls that you can see, so that's an interesting geographical feature also to have just in the middle of your city.
Yeah, it looks like a very interesting location to decide, oh yeah, we're going to place a city here. And like, what? Why? That's going to be a lot more work than if you put it in the flatlands. But no, it's cool. I think this is interesting. I look forward to seeing this place.
And there's a few handwritten notes on this map. Copper Gate Hotel, Shores Mansion. Nothing very interesting except over on the right, there's the Saran New District Cemetery, which is an interesting individual note to have pulled out. And you're like, okay, so why is that labeled? But one thing I did want to point out, just for people paying attention, is the great city of New Saran, commissioned by his lordship Stefan Sauvage in the year 336. Presumably they restarted the calendar when the world ended. So I point out the name because I don't know if you guys remember, we have seen that last name before. And it was
Sauvage.
Yeah. It was in the previous book, in the newspaper, the broadsheet, whatever. In the story about a lady who encountered in the mountains somebody that she thought was a visitor from another world. That lady's name was like Nichelle Sauvage. Or Lady Nichelle Sauvage. So
interesting.
Yeah, maybe we got some perpendicularity. It sounds like they're trying to rip off my Possum Hunter script.
So anyway, the maps are kind of, I agree. The city of New Saran just looks kind of interesting. Like it is very different from what you might expect. And then we get into the prologue. So we are back in time. It doesn't actually say how far back we've gone, but Wax is in the village. And according to the last book, his uncle allowed like 1 year that him and his sister could go live in the village. So this is during that, whenever that 1 year was.
Yeah. Well, at the end, in the fast forward part of the prologue, it says a year amount later. So I guess that gives an idea of how far back it is.
I didn't remember that part. Okay, yeah.
28 years.
So a good while ago. And actually, does it say how old? Wax is 15 here. So I guess that gives us exactly how old he is now. 43.
At the end of the first book, he was over 40, so...
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so they're in the village, and Wax's sister Telson and some of her buddies are sneaking out of the village. And I think his grandmother did mention his terrace name, Asinthu, once in the last book, but, you know, that went by pretty quick. And so we have Telson, we have Quashim, one of the girls, and Idashwi, who, was the dead girl from the last book. And there's like a weird little flirtation thing going on between her and Wax, which is kind of in this section, which I feel like here's the alternate history where Wax could have ended up in the village with like this Steel Runner girl. And then there is the one guy in the group other than Wax, Forch, which that name just sounds like harsh. And apparently Wax is a little do-gooder, like follow the rules kid, and they're like, oh, he's not going to sneak out. He'll tell on us. He's always following all the rules.
It's always the one who follows the rules who, like, rebels and gets kicked out.
Right?
Those rule followers.
The one girl,
Sinestro.
yeah, well, so, the one girl who's not his sister or Hidashwi, Quashim, she really seems to not like him. Like, oh man, who's gonna answer all the questions in class? It'll be really quiet without you there to be teacher's pet.
Which, I mean, look, any classroom has that kid.
Yeah. So they're gonna go out and get drunk. Telson's like, yeah, you can't find a good drink here in the village, but a couple blocks over there's some nice pubs. And it'll be extra easy to sneak out because grandmother is distracted by some sort of emergency. And they keep telling him that he's an outsider. Why do you live most of your life out there? What are you so scared of? Why do you care if we leave? And so Wax is always the outsider. His sister apparently gets in with everybody easily. But Wax gets Idashwi to tell him what this emergency is about. And she's like, I don't know, some constable is here to talk to her. And he's like, wait, what? And she like takes his hand. It's like, come on, let's go. And he wants to go instead and find out what this constable thing is about. And he's like, oh, they're going to think I'm a coward now. But he's very interested in the police part, especially since we find out that they are here because of him. And we cut to his grandmother talking to this constable. And she basically is like, hey, what happens in the village is none of your business. We police ourselves. We don't want you here.
Not a great idea, I feel like.
I mean, they said the same thing when Wax showed up in the last book. They're like, no, we police ourselves. Get out of here.
Sure. I mean, yeah. I just don't get, like, I don't know. I always saw, and of course, you know, people change. It's been hundreds of years since Sayst, but I always saw, like, the Terrace people as kind of logical, but I guess they're not really when you think about it, because Sayst was really the black sheep of the Terrace people. So
it's true.
We've never really seen them in a community. Like, we've seen the odd Terrace person here and there. So you sort of got to wonder, is this how they were in the past, or is this a new way? You know, you've got a whole bunch of people that are running different religions, and, you know, your whole way of life has been disrupted, and honestly, a lot of you were murdered. Like, there weren't many of you left. So you want to be a bit protective of yourselves. Like, I don't know how much of what we knew of the Terrace before and what we know of the Terrace now would align.
Yeah. They were mostly very subservient before, and they don't quite seem like that. I think you're right, because the only time we saw anything even like close to their society was after like all their leaders had been slaughtered and they moved to the Pits of Hatsin, and they were just like, Sayst, please come and be in charge of us. And he's like, nah, I don't want to. And so the constable says that he's gotten the tip. He has an informant, and he's like, it was anonymous, but this is like stronger than just a tip. And it's like a whole sheet full of all of like these suspicious things that Wax found out about this Forge kid. Shirt that smells like smoke, muddy boots the same size as the prints outside the burned building, flasks of oil hidden beneath his bed. And so Wax is thrilled that somebody took him seriously. And his grandmother's like, yeah, okay, I agree that this is disturbing, but it still doesn't give you any business being here. And the constable's like, well, you weren't so quick to reject the help of the fire brigade when they came in here to put out the fire, which I feel like that's a false equivalency. There's a big difference between like putting out a fire and letting the cops come in to like take somebody off to jail, which is her deal, where she's like, I've seen those things that you guys call prisons. I'm not putting one of our people in that. And I like when he's like, is it because this Forge is a twin-born? Are you frightened of his powers? And she just looks at him scornfully. Like, bitch, I ain't scared of nothing.
And I kind of believe that about her.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't know if she has powers, do we?
We do not know. I'd say there's a good chance.
Yeah, I would say she probably has at least ferrochemical powers, but maybe not.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she's not a twin-born because she was very down on Wax for like the evils of that half of his power. But yeah.
I mean, maybe, but she also just could be like she could be a twin-born herself and have some allomantic ability and just like really resent it because it's a reminder she is not pure Terrace.
That's an interesting point. That's true. She could have some self-loathing going on.
Yeah.
And the constable points out some stuff. He's like, I don't know how much you know about arson, but let me explain some stuff to you. This is often a crime that you see to cover up a different crime, or maybe something that leads to bigger crimes. This is not going to be an isolated incident, basically. And so he says, look, at best, what you have is somebody who likes to burn things and is just waiting to do it again. At worst, something bigger is coming, and you are going to regret this. And she's just like, not here for it.
Or a guy who burns down a bar for the insurance money. Yes, if he makes it look like an electrical thing.
Classic.
Yeah. There's tourist wisdom, and then there's, common sense.
Yeah. Put the blinders on.
And so he leaves her a bullet as a reminder, and she's not happy about that. Like, don't bring your instruments of death in here. And he says, when the boy burns something again, send for me. Hopefully it won't be too late. And he leaves. And she spots Wax in the mirror, watching through her window, and she's just like, Asinthu, please come in here. And she is like, so that letter he just showed me was in your handwriting. Did I not tell you that we had this under control? So I guess he reported it to them, and he didn't think that they'd done anything about it, so he decided to go to the police.
Which,
yeah,
fair.
Yeah, I mean, from a teenage perspective, it's like, well, he's still walking around, and he's still going to class, and it doesn't appear to seem like he's in trouble or anything, so, well, I guess nothing's happening.
Yeah, it's like, yes, don't worry, we gave him a good talking to.
Yeah, and he's going to have to do community service.
We've asked some of the others to make friends with him. I don't see how that's a punishment.
No, right? And she's just like, oh, man, I thought you were trying to fit in here. Why are you doing this stuff, Wax? Like, Wax is in more trouble than Forge is, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, she's certainly harder on him, perhaps because he's her grandson, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, so her solution is that, his crime is just because he spends so much time alone and he's misguided. So I've asked some of the others to make friends with him. So the others are making friends with him by taking him out and getting him drunk, which is probably not what she intended, but.
Yeah. Well, that and, I mean, I guess we don't know whose idea it was to go out. It might have been Forge's, because it sounds like later it's like, oh, you go and get them drunk and then leave, and so they think you're with them.
Yeah, that's a good point. It could have been his idea, although Telson indicates that they do it kind of a lot, so who knows.
Yeah.
And Wax is just like, I want to find out what's right. Why is it so hard? And she's like, no, that's easy. All you have to do is listen to what we tell you. And he's like, no. That's what you think is right. But there's other opinions than yours. So.
Yeah, it's very, very myopic there.
Yeah, just listen to the teachings. The teachings will tell you what's right. It's like, no, that's not really how that works, man.
And he's also feeling so unaccepted because what this one girl's opinion is apparently popular, where they think of him as an outsider and he's a goody-goody. And he's like, I'm trying to do what you told me and like just be so good that they have to accept me. And she's just like, keep going. You'll get there. Maybe you could tell some of them to make friends with me. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. And he takes the bullet with him and leaves. And so he's gone to class. We get a bunch of them reciting stuff in this class, learn the terrace things. And he kind of tricks with the teacher into telling him a story about like a woman who was killed by her husband by a gun. So maybe that's why the bullet's a reminder.
Yeah.
And we get some introspection where he's trying to weigh these two lives. He's like, does he want to live here in the village? Does he want to go out and be, a noble person, heir to the house at this point because his uncle hasn't had a son yet? And then he sees Forge going through the trees. And when the girls are not there also, he realizes, oh, he's up to something. Going to start another fire, probably. And he's trying to tell himself, it's none of my business. I'm supposed to follow the rules. But he cannot resist. And he tracks the kid to an old dormitory where they keep their extra. It's like used for storage now. And he's just like, geez, how dumb is it that this kid's like, they know that he burned down the other building. If he burns down a building now, they're gonna figure it out real quick. Which we find out later that he's got this alibi set up, but I feel like that may still be kind of thin. Like, are they really gonna believe it's a coincidence that another building burned down?
Yeah, 100%. It's like,
yeah.
Even if these girls swear you were out drinking with them, like, clearly this building got burned down. So you're the most likely person to have done that thing.
And so he follows him in, and is looking around when all of a sudden he gets smashed by Forge coming out of nowhere. And Wax is like, dude, it's okay. I just want to talk. And the guy keeps coming at him, keeps swinging at him. And Wax starts yelling for help and running. And he runs right into a room lit by candles, where there is a 5-year-old boy tied to a wooden plank, his shirt cut open, and he's got cuts on his chest, and there's knives sitting there. And Wax is like, oh, hell. This is not good.
And does it say, I forget, does it say if he's a terrace boy or if he's just a boy?
It does not say, and I was curious about that myself.
Yeah, because my curiosity comes from, well, maybe because, the constable said sometimes they do it to hide other crimes. So it's like, did he burn down the building because he'd already done this to another boy? Is he taking boys like from out in Ellendale as opposed to like other terrace boys?
Right.
The implication I got, and this could be wildly off base, when Wax first sees him sneaking through the trees, he's got a sack over his back, and I assumed, has he just knocked this kid out, stuffed him into a bag, and is bringing him back from the outside?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Especially because if he's with these girls, the alibi's not going to hold up if they're like, oh yeah, we lost him before we even reached the pub. So he had to have gone out.
And he's like, what is wrong with you, Forge? And Forge is like, I don't know. I've just got to see what's inside,
Which, ugh.
Yeah. It's pretty yucky.
And it says that his face is expressionless. And as he holds up a handful of nails, and Wax is like, oh, that's right. Forge is and it turns out Forge is a coin shot also. And he nails Wax with some of these nails.
Mm-hmm. They mentioned that before, right? Like, I think when they're about to go, he's...
Yeah, no, it does. The fact that he and Forge were coin shots.
Yep.
Yeah.
It didn't mention his terrace power, but it did mention
I was about to say, yeah. Does he use the Ferrochemy in the fight? I forget.
He does.
Way earlier in the week.
He is a brute. He can make himself stronger.
Oh, that's right, because he gets bigger. That's right.
Wax has left his bracers behind in his room and doesn't have any allomancy, or any rather metal in his stomach for allomancy, because he hasn't been using that in the village. He does still have a pouch of flakes on him though. He tries to take it, but it gets pushed away, and he's desperately he's hurt and trying to grab onto the pouch of steel flakes. And then that's where we see that Forge is getting bulkier. Not that I feel like you need it. He's already bigger than Wax, and he's already got his powers. Like, I feel like you're overplaying it a little at this point, but whatever.
Just the fact that all through this, the guy has barely any expression on his face.
It's very creepy.
And it's like, what's wrong with you? It's like, I don't know, just got to do this. I'm like, oh man, this guy he left an impression.
Yep.
Got too much ruin in him, I guess.
He grabs Wax by the throat and shoves him out the window, holding him out here by the throat, and Wax is like, please, and he drops him. But fortunately, Wax has gotten some of that metal in him, and he's got the bullet on him to try to cushion his fall by pushing it against the ground, because he fell 3 stories, so it's a good thing he managed to slow himself a little bit. And so now, he's like, he should run and get help, but that boy above is already bleeding. The knives are out. I gotta do something to save him. And so he goes back in there, all messed up, and he pushes the bullet at Forge, and Forge stops it, and it's hanging in midair, pushed between them. And then Forge gets bigger again. I don't know if being stronger helps you push harder, but maybe it makes you at least heavier. I don't know.
Well, if it increases his muscle mass.
Yeah. And then he's pushing a bar against Wax to shove him against the wall. And Wax is in pain. It's not fun. And he starts thinking about the words from the class earlier about how metal is your life, metal is your soul. And he starts thinking about the 3 different parts of the bullet in front of him. The tip, the casing, and the knob at the back where the hammer would hit. And suddenly the line splits into 3 lines to the 3 different parts of the bullet. And he shoves on just the little knob at the back, which shoots the bullet directly into Forge's skull and kills him. So that was nice.
That was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah. And I feel like it gives... I don't know for sure, but I feel like this is giving us a view of how important intent is in allomancy. Like, the way you think things work is the way they work, because when he starts thinking of the bullet as 3 pieces of metal, suddenly there's 3 different pieces of metal that he can push on.
Yeah.
So that really opens up possibilities for, if you can change the way your powers work by adjusting the way you think about them or the way you think about the world, then there may be room to do more than you ever thought you could do. But then, the people come. If the screaming didn't draw them, the gunshot definitely did. And he's standing there. He saves the boy. And the boy's like hugging him tightly and crying and not wanting to let go. And everyone comes in, the teacher, his grandmother, the elders, and they're all just staring at him in horror. It's all his fault that he brought violence into the village.
Yeah, I mean, did they not look at the kid and see that Forge had already brought the violence into the village?
Mhm.
I mean, really, they don't have, and that's what I mean by like logical. It's like they don't really have a logical place to stand here, even if their teachings say, violence is never the answer, which really doesn't make sense because, I guess they're not Harmony followers. It really doesn't make sense because, Harmony, who was a terrorist person, used violence in protection of others.
Yep.
It's like, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, their reasoning behind what they're doing. And, people will make the argument, well, sometimes religions aren't logical, but at the same time, it's like I feel like in most religions, a tenet of each of them, even Satanism, is preservation of life. Even Satanism has the tenet of preservation of life. So it doesn't really make any sense to me to say that like you can't protect like an innocent by using violence. Like it just doesn't make much sense.
Yeah.
And we know from the last book when he talked to his grandmother that her whole thing was like, you kill people. And he's like, yeah, I do it to protect people. But she couldn't get past the fact that like he kills people. We don't kill people. So
I guess. Well, I mean, what in that situation where he was literally protecting his life and the life of that child, because he would have died otherwise.
Yeah.
It's like, what was he was just supposed to allow himself to die? Like it doesn't make any sense.
No, I 100% agree. Yeah.
Well, I think there's a line,
and that's like, go ahead, Dak. I'm sorry.
That's what I was just saying. I think there's a line here where like Wax himself agrees because it says like they'll hate him because he had been right. Like there was nothing he could have done like to follow their rules and also save the boy.
Right, and save himself, because that's the thing. It's like that's literally the argument I would have with my grandmother at that point. It's like, what did you want me to do? Did you want me to die? Did you want me to let the boy die? Like, what was I supposed to do?
Probably the ultimate following the rules thing to do would have been to, when he saw Forge walking through the woods and not coming back to his dorm, would have been to go to an adult and be like, hey, he's out past curfew and he's gone off to like this area over here. So
yeah.
But I guess in that case too, though, he wouldn't have saved the boy, and she's already just said that they'll gladly accept help to save a life.
Yep.
So, it's a little bit hypocritical. What did they want to happen? He would go and say, oh, grandmother, I've seen Forge in the forest and he was holding something and he's going somewhere and doing something and he should be in his dormitory. And they send out someone to go and see what he's up to and then stumble upon that. And then it's just someone else in that situation. It's like, well, are you just going to let a whole bunch of terrorist people die? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. You were kind of damned if you did, damned if you didn't in that situation. There was no way Wax was going to win that.
Sorry, there's a mosquito I'm trying to kill. But yeah, I mean, and the thing is, if somebody other than Wax had come up on this, then they probably would be dead because they wouldn't be able to like stop the nails flying at them or whatever else the kid was doing. So
exactly.
Yes. Yeah, he would have been stronger than whatever adult they had sent. And yeah, 100%. Also, Data, did you just say you used violence to kill a mosquito? How dare you?
I tried to real hard. I don't know if I got him.
But like, and this is also
that is a life, sir.
The whole he goes and reports and they send someone out and that adult would also be dead is true, but that's also making the assumption that they even do send someone, because earlier this same night he's already gotten a dressing down saying stop obsessing over Forge. If he goes back and says, hey, I saw Forge, they might not even believe him and just send no one.
Could be. I feel like
you got a dead kid, a burnt down building, and no one's any the wiser.
I feel like they know Forge has kind of been up to some stuff, so if he told them, they would at least go and check his room and say, oh, he's not there. But maybe not. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we can all agree Wax did what had to be done, and they're upset at him for it. But what else could he do?
Yep.
And Joe points out, it's like he's like they're gonna hate me because I'm right, because I was right this whole time. And so Wax is a little bit, he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder about it, because he's the 15-year-old kid who all the adults were like, no, we got this taken care of, and they didn't, and he had to take care of it. So he's like, well, I was right and you all were wrong, so maybe you should be reevaluating yourselves, not me.
Yeah, and he's like, all right, I'm going to be ostracized for saving a child from murder. Well,
Yep.
Fuck you then. Fuck this society.
Yeah, I don't blame him for deciding not to stay in the village after that.
Yeah.
If they would have even let him. But yes, we cut to 28 years later, where Wax and Wayne are on a raid against some lawbreaker types. 8 men armed to the teeth, and Wax busts through the door, although I guess we don't necessarily know it's Wax. We know it's somebody in a mist coat, so you got to figure, given who the book is about, that yeah. And they're shooting.
As soon as the bullets are just like he has the bubble up and they're just like sort of peeling away from him, it's like, oh well, that's Wax.
Yep. Because they're all firing at him and nothing is happening. The bullets are going around him. And one of the guys is like, he's going to kill us all. And he's just like, Miggs, the guy in charge of these bad guys, is like, why are you just standing there? Just do what you're going to do. What's wrong with you? And one of the guys goes, maybe he's distracting us so his pal can sneak up behind us. Miggs is like,
I
"Hey."
love that. That's my favorite part of the whole chapter is when Wayne says what they're doing.
And he turns around and counts his crew, and he's like, wait a second. That's more people than should be here. And then he gets punched in the face. It's a really fun approach.
Sokka,
that they
it's
take.
it's not a sneak attack if you yell out sneak attack.
I mean, technically he still got him, so.
He does.
Yeah. It's like, thank God Miggs is just like a bit slow-witted and didn't quite cotton on.
These guys also have weird names, like Slink and Drawers.
I mean, they're mobsters. I mean, we love Joey Mousepad and Clamps. Like, what are
It's
you
true.
talking
Hey,
about?
there was a guy called Clamps in these books.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's true.
Where
That's
is
what I
he?
mean. Like, it's a
Bring
thing.
it back.
Yeah, bring back Clamps. We want Clamps.
and so yeah, Wayne takes out a bunch of these guys, and the rest of them give up. And Wax is like, "Okay, Captain, you can come in and take them." And he just walks up to Miggs, and he's like, "Hey, you might want to drop that gun, man." And he's like, "You could have just killed us all without even breaking a sweat. Why didn't you?" And he's like, "Yeah, frankly, you're not worth killing. Drop the gun. We'll get this sorted out." And so he does. And the captain's Wax is like, "Okay, they're all yours, Captain." And the guy's like, "Oh, you're not going to stay for the booking?" He goes, "No, I got to get to a wedding." "Whose?" "Mine, I'm afraid." "You came to a raid on the morning of your wedding?" He's like, "Well, in my defense, it wasn't my idea." Which it is hilarious that Steris was like, "Hey, you should go on this raid."
There's two ways you can read that. He could be saying going on the raid wasn't his idea, but also going to the wedding wasn't his idea.
Yeah. Both probably.
Yeah.
And so chapter 1 starts, and Wayne's like, "Man, that was a good plan, huh?" And he's like, "Well, it's the same plan we always have, where I have to be the decoy." And Wayne's response is, "Well, it's not my fault people like to shoot at you, man. You should be happy using your talents." "I'd rather not have shootability be my talent." He's like, "I gotta work with what you have." I love that. Yeah, I don't want shootability to be one of my talents either, Wax. I'm right there with you. And Wax, he says, "Are you okay?" And Wax says, "Yeah. I mean, this is my second marriage. I'm practiced at it by now." And Wayne makes a very a good point, which is absolutely true, where he's like, "I found that people marrying is the one thing people get worse at the more they do it. That and being alive." Yeah, okay, both fair.
Yep.
And then a guy comes up and is like, "Hey, Lord Ladrian, can I have a moment, please?" And Wax says, "Yeah, you can have all of them, but just do it without me."
Which great line. Gonna remember that one.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, I have
Can I have
plenty
a
of
sec? Yeah,
situations where I
sure.
could use that.
You know.
Jamie's at work and she's just like, "Yeah, no, have all the moments you want. Bye."
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I like how he was debating for so long getting in the carriage, this very nice plush carriage, and then when the guy comes up, he's like, "Okay, I'm taking off," and he just flies off into the sky.
Psych.
And so he gets to the Survivors Church with its big glass dome, which is apparently designed so that you can worship while viewing the mists. And he's just like, I mean, they could just step outside, but whatever. Which is interesting because if you remember back to the second book, like the Survivorist meetings when they first started did take place outside in the mist generally. So the tradition has continued to some extent. And he actually lands on the water tower that will come into play later. Sorry, Dak, you can go ahead.
That's right. I was going to make a dumb joke and disregard. As though I make any other kinds.
So this is 6 months after the last book, we find out, and he's still dealing with the shit that went down in that very long night, which we've had now 2 books that took place mostly like within a 24 or 48 hour period. So you have to wonder how long this if this is going to follow suit.
Well, if we follow our assumption that he's going to go to a new city, probably not as much, but
that would make sense. And so he shows up, finds Steris all dressed up. Her her sleek white dress had been chosen because the magazine said it was fashionable. And the paragraph ends with, she was actually quite pretty, as if this is a shock. And so she goes, and? Well, I didn't get killed, so there's that. And she says, you're late, but not very late. And I'm sorry? She'd insisted he go on the raid. She'd planned for it, in fact. Such was life with Steris. And so he says the raid went well, no casualties, so on and so forth. And he starts getting undressed so he can dress up in his outfit. And she's like, oh, you're trying to make me uncomfortable? And I like the bit where I skipped earlier where Wayne says, like, that's why I always have a bit of rat in my stew. And Wax says here, I work with what I have. And she goes, which is why you always have a bit of rat in your stew. And he goes, whoa, he said that to you too? And she says, I'm increasingly convinced he tries the lines out on me, the little mongrel.
Agreed, Sarah.
It's like, he's so mean to her that I absolutely don't have a problem with her, like, getting back at him in these ways by calling him names and whatnot.
Yeah.
Because she didn't start it, so it's fine. And I also like, he's like, what, you're not going to leave while I'm changing? And she's like, look, you're the Pathian one. Prudishness is part of your belief system, not mine. I've read about Kelsier, and I kind of doubt that he would care.
Burn.
It's so true.
Yep. Good old Kelsier.
But as he takes off his pants to get dressed, she does blush and turn around. And apparently, so in this Survivor ceremony, they exchange pendants. And so she says, did you bring the pendants? And he says, I gave them to Wayne. And she's like, you what? He says, I thought you wanted some disturbances with the wedding, and this will be perfect. I wanted planned disturbances. It's not upsetting if it's understood, prepared for, and controlled. Wayne is rather the opposite of those things, wouldn't you say? Totally true.
I'm 100% with her on everything she just said.
And she goes, I'm glad I had copies made. And he's like, copies of our wedding pendants? And she says, yes, 6 sets. The other 4 didn't arrive in time.
Because that's the way I roll.
He goes, you're one of a kind, Steris. And she goes, well, I mean, technically so is Wayne, and actually Ruin for that matter. So if you think about it, that's not really a compliment.
And she's firing on all cylinders this chapter.
She really is.
Yeah, she's got the nerves.
Yeah.
She's got, I guess the nerves are like giving her a little wit as well.
And so he goes, I don't really get you because you prepare for things to go wrong, but that basically just guarantees that something else is going to go wrong because you can't prepare for everything. And she's just like, I feel better when I try. Like, if everything goes wrong, at least I tried. Does that make sense? And he goes, yeah, actually, that does.
100%.
Yeah, I get it. And here's where she gives him the out. She's like, are you sure you want to do this? I mean, I don't want you to feel trapped, especially after what happened earlier this year. If you want to back out, I'm okay with it. And he thinks the way that she's clutching his hand as she says those words sends a very different message, but she doesn't seem to notice.
And this is this is the biggest thing that separates her from Wayne. Even when she's not as comfortable, when she's, uncertain or feeling hurt, she's willing to consider the feelings of others.
Yeah, it's true. And it's interesting that he's starting to think, like, I mean, at first this marriage was just about duty, but, like, the way that she's been here for me, like, these last few months, and the way she's looking at me, like, shockingly, I'm actually fond of her. It's not love. I kind of doubt I'm ever going to love again, but this'll do. Which isn't exactly a ringing endorsement, but,
No. That's
what you want on your wedding day.
Right. That'll do, Steris. That'll do. No, and that's the issue I have with this whole setup for these relationships in general. Yeah, what Wayne did's pretty despicable, but I feel like Steris deserves more than Wax. Like, it kind of sucks because it's not her fault, He was in love with somebody who's now dead that he basically killed twice, and there's not really anything she can do about that. but he's basically saying like, you're my silver medal. Like it's just
Yeah.
it's not super thrilling. And look, I'm not one for like romance. The love has to be romantic and stuff like that. But it helps. It's kind of nice to hear a story where the person isn't settling for someone. And yeah, like I guess the idea would be, well, they get married now, and maybe he's not like in love with her, but then he'll grow to be in love with her eventually, which does happen. But at the same time, it's just, it's not and again, maybe it's a more realistic perspective, because there are a lot of marriages that probably are like that, but it's just not super thrilling to read about these people that are sad and broken inside. So,
well, and I mean, it's an older sort of scenario where it's like, these noble people marrying to unite their houses or whatever. Love probably didn't often come into those situations.
Sure, I guess, but that's still kind of crummy.
No,
Like,
yeah, when these people, absolutely, yeah.
Right, yeah.
And I mean, even like when you get to, he tells her it's okay. I've recovered enough from my ordeal. I'm strong enough to do this. And I'm just like, isn't that what every woman dreams of hearing? He's like, no, I'm okay. I can make myself go through with this wedding.
I could bear to walk down the aisle and basically attach my life to you forever. I think I can bear that.
I can suck it up.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I might feel icky inside, but I'll do it.
It's a shame we didn't get to hear their vows.
Right?
Right.
I'm very curious. I'm just curious about actually the entire ceremony. Like, we don't know many ceremonies from these religions in these books, so I'm really curious about how they work. Like,
Wax is just like, Steris, you are now going to be my wife.
Even the Ash Girls
good.
thing, I'm just like, Ash Girls, that's kind of interesting. Like,
Yeah.
it's messy. I wonder if they have.
It took me
carpet
way
they
too
can
long
easily
to
clean up.
figure out. It took me way too long to figure out that they were like a replacement for a flower girl. I was like, oh, it wasn't until they were explaining that they sprinkle ash on the carpet, and I was like, ew, why would you want ash on the... Oh, I never get to it.
It's like, it's not a proper wedding gown until it's been dusted with some ash.
Maybe, yeah, that'd be funny too. Just they come up and throw it at you.
If it comes out pristine
tell you
white,
what.
then like it's an omen of like ill-destined marriage.
Yeah.
I got sprinkles thrown in my face at my wedding. Wasn't great. It hurt. Instead of confetti or rice or whatever, we had people throw sprinkles. Yeah, it was a bad idea.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, it's because we had like the ice cream bar, and we had this whole like ice cream theme to the reception, and
There's
then
an ice cream bar?
Yeah, man.
Were you
What
even
were you
there?
doing?
There?
I
Yeah,
know,
he was
right?
definitely there. He was the best man at my wedding.
I'm like,
Like,
was I there?
you were there.
I don't remember the reception at all.
Yeah, it's kind of a blur to me, but I knew what we had because I helped plan it a little bit.
Honestly, I think what I remember most is the practice run that we did in the chapel, because we were in there for a long time, and like you and me and the other groomsmen were just hanging around, and we started like singing random songs and stuff.
That was the day of the wedding. That wasn't even the practice.
Oh, was that the day of the wedding? Okay, I just remember being in that room for a long time.
We were in there for a long time because, unbeknownst to me, because there wasn't much communication between me and my bride on that day. She had told me we're going to take pictures at this time. And when I got there, that's not really what ended up happening. So we got there early to take pictures, and it just didn't go the way that we had originally discussed. So, but yeah, we definitely had an ice cream bar, and people definitely threw sprinkles at us.
Okay.
That was a thing that happened.
Oh, goodness. Okay, let's get back. So Marisai pops in, and she's like, Wax, there's a guy here, and I've been trying to send him away, but he won't take no for an answer. And it's the same guy with the bow tie. And he's like, how did you get here before Wayne? And the guy says, I don't think your friend is coming, and then throws him a crumpled up ball of paper, which Wax unwraps, and the wedding pendants are inside. Hey, Wayne made sure they got there. And on the paper is written, gonna go get smashed till I can't piss straight. Happy weddings and stuff.
I love the Condor's just like, I don't think he's coming. He gave me this balled up piece of paper.
Lucky that this guy was actually trustworthy enough to bring the pendants, not just like, oh, I'm gonna steal these and cash them in.
I think that's part of Wayne's design. It's just like, I don't care really if they get there. So here, just take them. I don't want to do this. And I think this poor Condra guy, he's like, this guy already doesn't like me. Now I'm going to come there with the paper and the that this guy gave me and tell him his friend's not coming to his wedding. He's going to hate me.
And so Wax is like, dude, I'm busy getting married. So just, and then the guy makes his skin turn translucent, and he has displaying the skull and spine beneath. And I like Steris is like, oh, holy one. So I guess like they're holy in the survivorist religion too, since that's her religion. And Wax is like, holy pain. Tell Harmony I'm busy.
I wonder, and I almost wonder if it's not necessarily that they're holy in the survivor religion, but that all of the religions are so like well known, and I almost get a feeling that a lot of the people in this world believe all like multiple of the religions are true. They just pick the one they like the most. Because it seems, because isn't Marasiah survivorist as well? But then she's like, oh yeah, the faceless immortals, here they are, and old Iron Eyes, there he is, like,
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Well, and I feel like given that the world is literally remade by God, and you got all these books handwritten by God, they don't seem to debate that. So I feel like they know Harmony is God. So I agree that it feels like they know that like multiple points of view are valid, and they pick the one they like. That makes sense.
Also pretty hard to deny the existence of the faceless immortals.
Yep.
When there's one showing you their skeleton.
I mean, to be fair, there's nothing, especially if you didn't believe in Harmony, there's nothing particularly holy about the Khandra. The Lord Ruler made them, and they're just people with different powers. So I could see not revering them, but it's hard to deny they exist if you see one in front of you, right?
Yeah, true.
And I like Steris is just like, tell Harmony? Like, and the guy tells him that's part of the problem. Harmony's been distracted. And Marasiah says, how can God be distracted? And he's like, we're not sure, but it has us worried. I get Waxilium that you're off to the ceremony, but afterwards, if I could have a minute. And Wax is like, nope, not going to happen. And he pulls Steris and they leave. And she's like, was that really one of the faceless immortals? And he's like, yep. And I don't want nothing to do with him. And she's like, do you need a minute? No, he probably does need a minute. But he's like, no, I'm fine.
Yeah. My mom's Steris. Come on. This isn't the right way to start off this wedding.
God should have known not to come for me, particularly not today. That's a bold statement.
You stay the hell away from me, God.
God is everywhere. Not today, he's not.
And she's just like, your life is really odd, dude. And he's like, yeah, I know.
He's like, hey, another perk of being my wife. Weird life.
And he says, are you ready? And she says, yes, thank you. And she's tearing up. And he's like, are you okay? She's like, yeah, it's even more wonderful than I'd imagined, which is an interesting take on what just happened. She's just like, this is so amazing. My wedding. Which she's
God put in an appearance. Fair enough.
She's so happy. It makes it even worse. What happens shortly? Oh.
I really feel for it because, like, from the comments she's made in the past, like, she's got it going through her head. This is a day that she has clearly thought would never arrive. She is so down on herself. She has such crippling self-esteem issues that she's always thought, like, no one will ever marry me.
Yeah.
And now she's actually at her wedding day. Like, she's got to be just going through it all.
Right. And so he looks out and he doesn't see Wayne. Despite the note, he's kind of sad about it. Like, he thought he would be there. He's the only real family that I have left. Which that's sad.
Yeah, because Wayne doesn't actually give a shit about your feelings. He thinks he does, but he doesn't.
Yeah. Bad friend.
Yep.
I mean, good friend in a fight, but other than that. But they don't have music. What you do have is the Ash Girls scampering across the carpet, which is a ringed walkway around the perimeter. And you walk around in the circle so that everyone can see you. And Steris' dad is like giving Wax like an enthusiastic fist raise as they walk past, like, yeah, you go.
Hey!
I like how much this guy loves Wax now.
He was like, I was in on it. I was in on the show last time. He probably goes to the club and he's like, oh man, I had this crazy adventure with my son-in-law. He left me on a roof for hours. It was nuts.
you know he's going to spin that. It's like, yeah, he put me on top of this building because he wanted me to keep a lookout. It's like, that building is a skyscraper. How did you see anything? It's like, oh, I had binoculars.
Yeah. And he
Fought
left
off-
me a gun, but he didn't leave it loaded, so, it's
Fought
just
off
a gun.
5 guys to get to the top of that building.
Yeah.
Like, but how did you communicate with him if you were a lookout on top of a skyscraper? Well, you see, the Tarcells, they invented this thing called a walkie-talkie.
Yeah. No, have you ever seen this thing? It's like you get like a soup can, you put a string on it. And then, it's just a really long string with another soup can at the other end. It's awesome.
We get a brief flashback to like Leslie and Wax's wedding, a simple Pathian ceremony finalized on horseback to escape a mob. But she wanted a wedding like this. She said someday she's going to make him do it proper. And so that makes him happy for a second until he looks and that's not the woman who's standing next to him. And then he's extra sad.
You know, I always thought they never actually got married.
Well, it wasn't really clear, especially in the first book, if they were actually married or not. And we had assumptions like one way or the other to start with. And then I think in the second book, they actually say that they were married, but that's the most we hear about it. I think so.
Because I could have sworn there was. I sort of flipped back through the book a bit after the whole reveal of last week. And there was one point early on where Bleeder says to Wax, I was sorry to hear about your lover or something. I'm like, and it's like, well, okay, why would you, like, if they were married, why say that and not wife? But I mean, that could just be Leslie trying to throw a misdirect in, but I don't know.
Right.
I guess like subconsciously I've always had that in my head. It's like, oh, they were never married.
That is absolutely, that is something that gets said is like Bleeder says your lover. But I think there's another point in the book, which I just had to go and search for it, where Wax is like, no, Marisai says everything doesn't have to be about you. And Wax says, not everything, just this. And she thinks that was probably right, annoyingly. Why else would Bleeder be going around the city wearing the body of the man who'd killed his wife? So, but yeah, there's not much mention of it. And I feel like it's never super clear. Like maybe Marisai even just thought it was his wife and she'd never gotten details. But finally, we know. They had a ceremony while escaping a mob on horseback. And as they continue walking, he's just getting more and more uncomfortable. And he's like, this marriage means letting go of her. And I don't think I'm ready. Oh my God. Like I'm right here in the middle of it and I don't think I'm ready. While the priest is talking, he's like, I got to get out of here. What am I going to do? And he looks up and he sees that water tower. And as he's watching, it shifts and he's like, wait, what? And it starts to fall over. Water spills out. He grabs Steris and he has one metal button on just for safety. So he pushes that down so he can push them up and away. And the water crashes into the dome and everything gives way.
Which, as they say later, going up to get away from water. I mean, not a great plan.
Yep. You know, it was a reflexive thing. Can't blame him. He didn't have too long to think about it. But yeah, as Steris points out, he did try to push them up and away. It just wasn't fast enough. So we cut to after the fact where everyone has been drenched in water, but there were no serious injuries. One guy hit his head trying to run away. And the Constable General of the 6th Octant is you ruined my best pistol, you realize. I'll have to have this cleaned and oiled. And like Wax is thinking, like, if it was really a good gun, a little water wouldn't ruin it, jackass.
Also, how is Wax to blame for this?
Right? And apparently the insurance assessor is already kind of calling it an accident, it seems like, which he showed up fast. But
yeah, I think it said something about like the church is like demanding they make payment or something. And I was like, how fast do you need that? It sounds like there are still wedding guests there.
Right?
Like, okay.
You got to pay now.
Yeah.
It says he came to do an initial report for when the church demands payment on their policy.
Oh, okay. I misread that. I was like,
I just like the idea the
house
priest
isn't burned down and you're at the front going, okay, pay me my money now.
The insurance office is
still
just
on
across
fire,
the
man.
street.
Yeah.
It's like, this isn't Affleck. We'll pay you when we pay you.
I'm picturing the priest like still drenched and he's like walking into the office like, I want money.
Yeah, the insurance guys will have to pay. And they deserve to pay. Bastards. If you know that reference, you're a good friend.
And so, yeah, Wax is talking to Steris and he goes, yeah, it looks like simple structural failure. And Steris is like, so yeah, just an accident. I mean, I should have expected this crap. Do you ever get to wonder if the Cosmere is trying to overwhelm you And he's like, the cosmic, you mean harmony? And she's like, no, I mean just like cosmic chance, rolling the dice anytime I pass and always hitting all ones. Of course the wedding would fall apart. Tons of water falling through the roof. Why wouldn't I have seen that coming? It's so utterly outlandish. It had to happen. At least the priest didn't get murdered this time, which that's true.
It could have been worse.
It's like, how do you plan for a water tower falling over? It's like, it's so utterly outlandish. It's like, what did you plan for that was utterly outlandish? Were you predicting like eagles breaking through the ceiling and carrying you away or something? Someone burnt Addie and a fucking volcano opened under the church? Like, what did you plan for?
I hope that she hired like a dozen different teams for various situations. Like there's guys hiding in a room with like fire extinguishers for in case something lit on fire. Or there's, there's guys with eagle repellent ready to rush out when those giant eagles come in.
Like the subway tunnels below the church, there are guys down there with pickaxes in case the mole men attack.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the Underminer.
The Underminer.
She's once again so down on herself. She's like, thank you, Lord Waxilium, for being willing to subject yourself to me.
Oh, Steris. Sweet, sweet Steris.
I just want to hug her.
And he's like, no, Steris, I mean, I think you're delightful. And she says, and the fact that you're gritting your teeth as the ceremony started, gripping me like you're dangling for your life from the side of a bridge. Which, yeah, okay, that's fair, but that wasn't really about you. I mean, she can't know that, but it wasn't. And she's just like, can you honestly say that you're sad the wedding is delayed? And he cannot. And like it says that he flounders for so long that like an awkwardly long time until saying anything would have sounded bad. So he's just like, okay. And he's like, I'll just have to relax, do something to relax myself next time, I guess, as opposed to going out on a raid right before the wedding. And he's like, I assume you have a backup dress? And she says she has 2, and she reserved another date 2 months from now at a different church in case this one exploded. And the section ends with her saying, well, things do tend to explode around you. So considering that, getting drenched must be rather novel. I love Steris so much. She's amazing. And so then we cut to Marasai, who is, she's suspicious. She's got her notebook and she's going around looking at things and talking to people. And mostly, she is looking for somebody. She's hunting a very special kind of insane. First the pubs. Nope, too obvious. Then she checks the gutters. One soup kitchen. And against her better judgment, a purveyor of quote-unquote novelties. Okay. Finally, running out of ideas, she went to check if he decided to steal the forks from the wedding breakfast. And she finds Wayne impersonating a chef and yelling at everybody with like this heavy Eastern accent, she thinks maybe. He's got everyone running around working. Sorry,
he's doing his best Gordon Ramsay.
Right, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I've seen CRISPR lettuce in the garbage heap, he says to the cringing delivery boy, like it's the delivery boy's fault. And then, oh, well, hello, Marasai. And she says, what are you doing? And he says, making soup. He had to make sure that they didn't welch on their promise and not make anything to eat. We paid for this stuff. Well, Wax did. And Marasai is flipping open her notebook. She's like, so bolts securing the water tower were definitely loosened, and the road was conspicuously empty, some ruffians from another octant having stopped traffic with a fistfight. And Wayne's just like, I hate your notebook.
Yeah, because it's the notebook we need to blame.
Yeah, exactly. It's all the notebook's fault.
Yeah, it's like that movie, The Notebook. That movie sucks.
I've never actually seen it.
I say it sucks. It's not terrible, but it's just become, it's kind of like the Star Wars prequels. It's just become meme like fuel.
And she's like, someone could have been hurt, Wayne. And he's like, that's not fair. Somebody was hurt. That fat fellow has no hair.
Like, brain injuries are nothing to make jokes about, Wayne.
And she's like, I am a cop, dude. I can't just ignore this shit. And Wayne's like, it's fine. Wax is going to pay for it.
But that doesn't make it fine.
No, it doesn't.
So it's fine. The insurance guys are going to pay. And they deserve to pay.
That's called insurance fraud.
And
I sort of picture, like, in like the sort of the later seasons of South Park that have been coming out, Cartman's mum is actually finally starting to stand up to him.
Oh, good.
To the point where it's like, recently, like, they lost their house because Cartman couldn't deal with the fact that she got a job and basically forced her to quit. It was a whole thing. And now she's just, like, sick of him, and they have to live in basically an old abandoned hot dog stand. And I'm picturing, it's like, at some point, this is going to be Wax and Wayne, like, Wax's money is going to run out because he has to spend it all on insurance stuff because of things that Wayne did. And they're going to have to move into a hot dog stand. And then, like, Wayne is just not going to take responsibility for that. And Wax is going to be like, no, fuck you, dude. We live in a hot dog stand.
I'm pretty sure that Wax can always just go back to law keeping out in the roughs.
True. He doesn't have to live in a hot dog stand. Also, it sounds like Wayne actually, if he made a sweet deal with that dude's daughter, he maybe end up richer than Wayne somehow.
Wax, you mean?
Or Wax, I mean, yeah.
Could be. Wayne's going to have his own noble house in the future. The House of Wayne will have survived until the next series.
Yeah. Does Wayne?
The Knights of Wayne.
Does Wayne have a last name that we know?
I don't think that we know it if he does. He's Kid Wayne. That's all that we got.
It's actually Wayne Lesteborns. How awful would that be?
Oh, God.
Oh, boy.
I feel like House of Wayne should be like a fancy store that sells all these different hats.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Welcome to the House of Wayne.
And then it's like hundreds of years in the future, he has a descendant named Bruce.
Yeah. Who lives in Wayne Manor. Oh.
It's all coming together.
Yeah.
Plagiarism. So Wayne's explanation is the lads got a little carried away. I said, see, the church was flooded. I thought that they'd, like, break the plumbing or something, and the priest would come in the morning and find the whole place flooded. They got a little excited is all. And he's like, I slapped him around already, Marissa. I promise I did.
I slapped him around.
And she's like, Wax is going to figure this out. What are you going to do then? And Wayne says, nah, he has a blind spot for stuff like this. He'll know in the back of his head that I did it, deep in his subcontinence, but he'll also, like, secretly be relieved that I stopped the wedding, and he'll pay for the damages no matter what. And he won't say anything, won't even investigate. You just watch.
Does it make it okay?
No, it doesn't. And then Wayne offers her a jug, and she goes, that's cooking sherry. And he's like, yeah, the pubs don't serve anything except beer at this hour.
Oh, now he's got something against beer.
And he's like, you should be happy that he's not marrying her. You still got a chance. And she's like, dude, I don't want a chance. He made his decision. And Wayne's like, is that how the Ascendant Warrior would do it, huh? And she goes, no, actually, she walked up to the man that she wanted, slapped the book out of his hand, and kissed him.
Yeah, which, I mean, not technically the truth, but, it sounds like a good story.
It sounds like what Vin would have done, sure.
Well, it's kind of the abridged thing. She did walk up to him and slap a book out of his hand at one point and kissed him later. It just wasn't at the same time.
Right. I do like that they reference her murdering. What was even that woman's name? I forget.
Shan Alariel.
Yeah, Shan Alariel. Yeah. I do like that. It's like, also, she murdered his fiance.
And Wayne's like, what, really? I mean,
she murdered everyone in his family. Let's be real.
It's true. She
yeah, I mean, that's how my wife got me. She murdered my first fiance.
I mean, to be fair, that fiance was trying to murder him at the time.
Did she? Did he?
Yeah. At this point, I'm like deeply, deeply Stockholm syndromed. So.
And I like Wayne's response is, oh man, that's gruesome, in an approving tone. And she goes, nah, that's not even, like, she supposedly ripped out the Lord Ruler's insides. I've seen it depicted in several illuminated manuscripts.
Which also not technically true. I mean, unless you count the bracers in his arms being his insides.
Right.
But also, it's like, I'm sorry, you're inventing all these stories about how Vin gruesomely murdered people, and you don't bring up the headbutt of doom.
That's probably in there somewhere. But she's like, have you ever read any religious text? And he's like, yeah, lots of things I read have religious text in them. Damn, hell, flatulent, arse-licking git. That last one's in the Testimony of Hammond, promise. At least all the letters are.
Do we see Ham saying that?
I just like that Ham's, like, holy book is the Testimony of Hammond. And he's like, so see, yeah, just be the Lady Mistborn. Get your murdering on. And she's like, my murdering on. Against my sister. You could be polite about it, like give her the first stab or whatnot. And she's just like, dude, I don't want to be the Ascendant Warrior. I don't want someone that I have to rope into submission. That sort of thing is for the courtroom, not the bedroom. And he's like, well, hold on. And she basically, she's like, look, whatever. I've moved on. And he's like, wait, you can do that?
That's a thing?
Do you think I should, with Renette? And she's like, dude, if anybody should have taken a hint, it's you. Yes. Move on.
I do like that they at least have this conversation and that it's like,
Yep.
yeah, dude, she's gay. You should have moved on by now.
He says it's only a phase, one that lasted 15 years.
We don't
It's
call
like,
them
dude.
phases, bro.
Like, dude, she's gay. Really? That explains why she was making out with that lady in front of me.
Then he pulls out a bottle of wine, and she's like, "That's been in there this whole time." It's like, yeah, it tastes better if you drink something that tastes like dishwater first.
Just that reasoning. It's like, yeah, I mean, it tastes better because you're comparing it to the last thing you drank. It's yeah.
And so then the Kandra walks in, and Wayne's like, "Dude, if you're here to persuade me to persuade him, you should know he does not listen to me. Unless he's pretty drunk at the time. Probably why he's lived so long." And the Kandra's like, "Actually, I'm here for Marisai. My first choice for this endeavor rejected me, so I hope you take no offense at being my second."
Another, what's Steris's last name?
Harms.
Another Harms girl as somebody's silver medal.
I think Marisai is actually Miss Combs. She has her mom's last name.
Yeah, but we all know the score.
And so he says, "Miss Combs, tell me, what do you know about the nature of investiture and identity?" With capital I's.
Fancy.
And that's the end of the chapter.
Yeah, we're about to offer Wax a chance to become God, but he didn't want it. So you want to be God?
Yeah, you want to be God? Seems like our God's
Bruce
real
Almighty
distracted,
situation.
So we need somebody else to be God for a while.
I'm going to borrow the powers for a little bit while he's distracted.
He's on vacation or something? I don't know.
Say he's just laying on a beach somewhere.
He's doing his annual thing where he cries about his dead wife.
Oh, that's mean.
That was mean.
Well,
Sorry.
the book is the Bands of Mourning, so
Yeah.
maybe that's
Yeah.
what he's off doing, mourning.
If there's any reason to mourn, it's that.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, so predicaments. What do you guys think? Where is this going? What are we going to do in this book?
Oh, I'm not sure. I think in terms of time frame, 2 months for the book. I think we'll end with the wedding, is what I'm hoping, anyway. With all parties a little more happy to partake. I think, well, because we've had the sister mentioned, I am hoping that we're going to see Mr. Suit and the sister and a bit more of that familial tie for Wax in this book. I hope it doesn't sort of hold over to the next book. I would like that to be answered soon. Obviously, Wax is going to go somewhere else. We're talking about the map earlier. I don't really have much else, really. I don't know where we're going. I mean, we talked about in the last episode that he's going to be upset with Harmony for a while, which is definitely happening. In terms of what's going on with Harmony, I don't know if we're having like a fuzz kind of situation, but I feel like we're probably going to get, maybe Wax is going to learn a bit more about what happened with Kingwill and find some common ground there, and his faith will be renewed or something in the story. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have anything yet. It's a bit early.
It is early, it's true. I do like the idea that the Bands of Mourning is related to this mourning in some way, and maybe Wax will find out about Tindwyl. Like, we don't know how much about Tindwyl's in the books that, Harmony left behind. You have to figure that he wouldn't want her to be forgotten, so she might be in there, but who knows? Maybe it hurts too much to talk about.
There's a Tindwyl, like, boulevard or something.
Oh,
right?
yeah, that's true. There was a Tindwyl promenade.
There you go. So, people know her name, at least.
Yeah.
I mean, she did fight though in the battle. Didn't she lead one of the armies at one of the gates or something? So they might not realize the significance to save though.
She was a martyr. That's true.
So okay. So, yeah, given how little information we have, I think that's not a bad starting place.
Yeah, I'm just gonna make the assumption, since we had a prologue that was very important last time, that this prologue will be very important this time. So how that's going to play out, I don't know. Just pulling from the things that happened in the prologue, maybe we'll get to spend more time with Wax's grandmother. Maybe somehow like a relative of Forge comes back into the picture because he got killed real good.
Yep.
Or maybe we'll even see his sister in this book. Hopefully, we haven't heard anything about his sister or the set or anything since Alloy of Law, really. So, be cool. since they kind of introduced her characterization at least a little bit in the prologue. It'd be cool to see her if she shows up. And then as far as the Condor goes, I don't know. Like, I just keep thinking, even though he says technically God is distracted, I keep thinking of the Blues Brothers. It's like it's like we're on a mission from God. So it's like maybe he's got some kind of request or mission he wants to send her on that for whatever reason they can't do themselves. Which I'm like, man, there's a lot of Contra. Why can't they just do it themselves? But anyway, yeah, I'm excited to see what takes place, and maybe we'll leave Wax behind. Maybe Marasai will be the main character of this story. That'd be interesting, right?
Yeah, it's entirely possible.
Maybe Marasai, maybe like they never see Wax again. Marasai and Wayne go out on their own adventure.
The series changes to the Marasai and Wayne stories.
Yeah, I doubt that, seeing as how the cover art for this book is Steris and Wax, but you never know. At least my version is.
Our cover art is a dude. It looks like a statue of a dude holding a cane.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten. Hold on, so I'm gonna look at that one again. Bands of Mourning.
And there's like someone else. I guess that's Wayne at the bottom holding his dueling cane.
Oh yeah, that's definitely like a statue of a dude holding like a cane. You're right.
Yeah.
A dueling cane. Who else do we know who uses a dueling cane that would have a statue of themselves?
Oh, I don't think
Looks like an older bloke.
I don't think I ever even noticed that they're like standing at the base of a statue is a smaller person. Like I've seen this cover before, but yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's Wayne.
Maybe it's the guy who taught Wayne to fight. Stick.
Scott Glenn, let's go. As far as where we're going for this book, yeah, like we were talking about, the fact that New Saran has a map, like I guess we're going there, which would be kind of cool. I don't know what significance that place will have. I agree. I think the prologue's got to come back into it, and this where my brain has been going is like I feel like Telsin, his sister, we're going to learn a bit more about her. Specifically, I think she's actually not a prisoner of Mr. Suit and the set. I think she's in on it.
Oh.
Because she seems fairly resentful of Wax at the start of the book. And from other remarks that have come up, it's kind of been like she's the forgotten one. Like Uncle Eddie really wanted Wax to take over the family business, and then he wanted his own son to take over the family business, and then Wax proved a disappointment. The son died, and so I think I think maybe Telsin's been itching for a chance to prove herself, and like just like why is everyone just forgetting about me? I can do shit too. So I really like the idea that maybe she's one of the masterminds for the set, maybe even the second in command behind Mr. Suit, behind Dear Uncle Eddie. And yeah, I want to see where this goes. I think because as much as you give a shit for like, oh, you know, isn't that often that there's a secret bad guy? There actually kind of has been. We had Lessie last book, Rashek from the first book, and Marsh from book 2. It's like secret bad guy happens quite a bit. So secret bad guy this time, Telsin.
Before you even mentioned it, I was gonna say, like, when you're talking about that, I was gonna be like, the first secret bad guy prediction coming out early this book. Okay, I like it.
Yeah. No, I think but I think the prologue was sort of a misdirect. We're focusing so much on Wax and Forge, but it's really the important bit is Telsin. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's definitely the first time we've gotten any information about her beyond her name. So even I mean, whether you're right, wrong, whatever, it's nice to finally know something about her.
That is true, yeah. But it's like I think it'd be a nice little twist if you know, when he met Suit at the end of Alloy of Law, and it's like, oh, my sister is safe and her safety depends on you behaving yourself. Like, you know, that would be just a neat little we can keep Wax in line with that. Meanwhile, Telsin is just like laughing the whole time, thinking it's like I'm working against him from the start.
Yeah, I like this. This is now I want this to be the recurring the recurring thing for this book. Now you can like Joe's Condor predictions or volcanoes or something. Just keep coming back. This is a fun one.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think with my predictions, I have a bad habit of forgetting them week to week. So I need to be better and try and remember them each time.
I honestly think I was gonna say I don't remember if it was you. I think it might have been. I think someone has made that prediction, like some in the previous book or maybe even the first book, that she wasn't actually a prisoner. I feel like I've heard that before, but
listen to the Alloy episodes.
That I think I remember talking about that, how she, like, you know, might be going along with it. Especially if she's got some kind of ferrochemical powers.
Yeah, we still don't know if she has any
If
kind of
she's
power.
if
Yeah.
she's twin-born, or if she's just Terrace with no half Terrace and no ferrochemical powers,
Or she could be an Allomancer like her brother is. Who knows? Okay, we have no new emails, but so we've got 2 new patrons, one at the Shard level and one at the Ska level. So you got your chart ready to give them some faring powers.
Yeah.
So our new Shard of Adonalcium backer is Henry.
Henry, you are a spinner. You store fortune. Because that sounds awesome.
That does sound awesome. That is one that I've often thought, like, I might pick that if I was going to have.
Yeah, I mean, if it's anything like Felix Felicis, it's got to be swell.
I mean, especially if you could, like, if you were also a Allomancer, so you could, like, compound that like Miles did.
Oh, God. Yeah, that'd be crazy. Although I'd be really scared to store it because it's like bad things might just keep happening to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why you need to compound it, because then you just need to store, like, a little bit, and then you can, get 10 times back.
Right. So what you're saying is we need some chromium burners, which we don't even know. I don't even know what chromium does.
Chromium is that what Maricide does? Hold on.
No, she's cadmium.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that they sound similar. Hold on.
Yeah.
It's Chromium Allomancy. Let's look it up real quick. Oh, it is in the back of let me make sure it's in the back.
Ars Arcanum and Shadows of Self or something.
Let me go back to Shadows of Self just so I'm 100% sure it's in the Ars Arcanum, because I don't think this is a power that we've seen yet.
No, it doesn't
in
sound
action.
like it.
So one moment, and let me confirm. List of metals.
Let me confirm. No.
Okay, it does. it did say in that. So basically, chromium. Okay, so if you burn aluminum, it gets rid of all of your metals.
Mhm.
Chromium, if you burn chromium, you can get rid of somebody else's metals.
Oh, that's cool.
That's useful.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how she got rid of Wayne's metals. Probably not though.
No, yeah, I think she just took his metal mines. Like, that's a different thing than getting rid of, like,
Yeah,
Allomancy.
But had he burned all his? Oh, it did say he had burned all his.
Yeah, when he was trying to escape the mob.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah. Anyway, back to what we were saying.
Yeah,
You're a spinner.
And then our new Ska level backer is William.
And William, you are a subsumer. You store energy.
Mm.
It'd be cool, like Gambit, just like store some, like use up some energy, and then like I don't know that it's kinetic energy, so maybe it's not the same. But you could charge something with energy.
No, I think the energy. Hold on, now I'm gonna look that one up too. What metal was that?
That is Bendalloy.
That's what Wayne burns.
Mm-hmm.
Bendalloy. So
energy's probably like.
Yeah,
you could just
it's nutrition and calories is what.
So you can not have to eat for a long time, I guess.
So yeah, you can eat a bunch of food without getting full to store it, and then if you tap it, you can go without food, and you can have a separate metal mine to do fluids.
Interesting. That sounds actually pretty useful.
Yeah, absolutely. You go to an all-you-can-eat buffet and screw them way over.
Although it says it stores the energy, but my question is, do the calories still affect your body? That because you don't want to be like that. That honestly, that what that sounds like is if anybody's ever watched or read My Hero Academia, there's a guy called Fat Gum or something like that, and his quirk is basically that. Like he consumes a bunch of calories, gets really fat, and then his quirk is that he expends his energy and like creates crazy explosions or kinetic things with all his energy that he stored. And then he gets real thin when he does that.
Yeah, I get the impression from the way this phrases it is that you're storing the nutrition and calories. So I feel like the calories can't make you fatter if you're storing that.
I guess that makes sense because you're putting them into the metal mind, not into your body.
Yeah, basically. But it's so weird that like because you're taking physical food and just turning it into like battery, which is what your body does, I guess. But it's still so strange.
Yeah, well, physics and fiction, it doesn't always make sense.
That's true. Okay, so thank you guys for supporting us on the Patreon. That's amazing. We really appreciate it. If anyone wants to send us emails, the email address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram and places such as that. For the next episode, we are reading 2 chapters, chapters 3 and 4 of this book, Bands of Mourning. Music by Miracle of Sound. Thanks everybody for listening. We appreciate it. And we to remind everyone, we're a couple episodes ahead in recording, so if you send us something, don't be surprised if it takes a while before you hear it. Just to let everybody know.
Mm-hmm.
Come back 2 chapters next time, and wuzzing to the time of next. Kolo?
Steam train running on a reckless rail, speeding right up to the rising gale. Shuttle harder 'cause we're on your tail. London